Yeah, I'm trying to open the. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Game Over Toronto. I'm your host, Rahef, and I'm going to be joined in just a little bit by my guest tonight, Omar White. We're going to be recapping that extremely boring and meaningless game that just took place against the Boston Bruins. The Leafs won 5-2. And then we're kind of going to be looking back on what's been a record-setting season for the Leafs and kind of doing a little bit of a playoff preview. What can we expect from them against their opponent, which we now officially know with that Leafs win is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. So with that, welcome my guest tonight, Omar White.
Hey, how's it going? Are you awake after that one?
I am soundly asleep. Soundly asleep, Omar. That was that was so boring. That was so boring.
Yeah, not too much to, I guess, really get excited for, but mission accomplished. You go in, you play well, I guess, and people don't get injured, even though there was a couple of scares here or there.
Oh man, that Liljegren hit, I was on the edge of my seat. I was so scared.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was literally just like, okay, I think it's time to start benching people just for health reasons. Like after Justin Hall, I think had that collision, that 50-50 collision with Jake DeBrusk. Then like the Bruins started taking runs at him, and then Mikheyev gets knocked down and Blackwell gets knocked down. I was like, okay, I think Keefe made the right decision in sitting down like Matthews and Marner and Tavares, but everything worked out well, so I was okay.
Yeah. In the end, it was okay. And there were a couple of interesting moments, I guess, in the game. Nick Abruzzese gets his first National Hockey League goal, which was, I'm really happy for him. Really exciting to see. That was really cool.
I'm glad someone's happy for him because he looked like he didn't care at all.
Right? I actually noticed that. He looked like, when Austin Matthews scores his like 45th goal of the season and it's just like, I've been here before, I've done this, absolutely no expression. That's what Nick Abruzzese looked like. He didn't even cheer.
Yeah, and he's a Boston kid too, right? So like you'd think that there'd be some like I guess extra like flair, like hey, I got my first NHL goal against I guess the hometown team or whatever. But I don't know, maybe understanding the fact that it is like the last game of the season, like not the best players are playing, but hey, I don't know, man. It's still a pretty good memory. I don't know, I wouldn't be able to do that. So
Yeah, and it
kudos
was
to
at
him, I
home
guess.
too. He got a little bit of like a standing ovation. Like in the end, it
Yeah,
was a cool moment.
yeah, definitely. But I think it's good for him, especially considering like, whoa, that was like his eighth game maybe with the Leafs since signing out of college, and I think he almost had his first NHL point on that Spezza goal the other day, but got called offside because he was offside. So I guess finishing off the regular season with something to show on the scoreboard, and I think really could be a good I guess confidence booster for him, especially if the Leafs do go on a long playoff run, which they hope for, and which we all hope for, then I think he hopes to be one of those, I guess, next person up in the lineup, and hopefully this goal, I guess, is something that he can hang his hat on. I guess I came in the NHL, I played, I scored my first goal. Let's see what happens next year.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Um, some other like fringe players that I think look really good tonight. Joey Anderson, I
Yeah,
think
Joey
had a great
Anderson.
night.
Yeah, had a couple of opportunities. I think like two back to back on like the same shift.
Yeah, that shift
Um,
was really good.
yeah, it's wild. Do you know like I forgot how young he is? I thought he was like 27.
I That's what I thought. How old is
No,
he?
he's 23, right? I know.
Wow. So he's
Yeah.
Matthew's age. Are they the same?
Wait, what? Wait,
He's
how old is
Matthew's
Matt?
age? Is
How
Matthew's
old is?
is
Okay,
20?
now I'm concerned because Matthews is 24. Wow, man, I love this team. Matthews is only 24. Oh, I love drafting. Yeah, yeah. I think Anderson's. Yeah, Anderson's another player. He had yeah, I think he had a couple of good looks, which is solid. And I think in a game like this, where not many people are trying, and this is kind of is like a show me what you got type of performance, I think he did pretty well. And if the Leafs do have a lot of bodies and numbers as far as forward depth goes, but I think he's put himself in a good position to fill up some spots later on, and or maybe he can take this confidence, bring it back down to the Marlies. I don't know what the Marlies are doing right now, but yeah, I think it was a pretty good night for him too.
Yeah, yeah. Overall, it was like we said, pretty uneventful. But officially, we now know with that win that the Leafs are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in round one of the playoffs. So I have to ask you, Omar, how do you feel about that? And did you have like a preference coming into tonight? Because there was if the cards played out in a certain way with, I think Tampa did lose today. Did they not
They
to New
did.
York? Yeah. So
I,
with Tampa
yeah.
losing, if Boston had beaten Toronto tonight, the Leafs' first round opponent would have been the Boston Bruins. So were you secretly rooting for that, or did you just, were you neutral on the preference of which team the Leafs were going to play?
All right. Rahef,
Yeah.
Leafs fans watching, you have watched this team your entire life. So whether the Leafs are the favorite, whether they're the underdog, anything that happens, it's never a guarantee, regardless of who they face. They face Washington, lose. They face Boston, they lose. They face Boston again, they lose. They face Columbus, they lose. They face Montreal last year, up 3-1, and they lose. So for me, like when all this scenario stuff was going on, I don't care. I generally don't care because I think the team, and you mentioned at the beginning of the show, like the team has looked better this year. They've set a whole bunch of records. To be honest, like beat who you have to beat. And you know what would the loss sting less if it's against Tampa? Probably because you can say, okay, well, they're up against, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. It makes sense. But like for me, man, I like just play the games. I generally don't care who they face. Just play the games. They've showed that they can beat anyone. And I don't think there should be anyone that they should be fearful of. Yes, of course, every team has their concerns, and you have to respect different teams for different reasons. But I genuinely don't see a reason why the Leafs couldn't beat Tampa or beat Boston. Yes, Tampa is Tampa, and I'm not saying like, oh, the Leafs are better than Tampa, but like I feel like this team is different, and I've had that feeling the entire year, and I have that belief going into the playoffs. So for me, I didn't necessarily care. Wouldn't it have been funny? Oh, 100% would have been funny. But as far as like a better matchup, I really don't care who they face. Just play the games, win the series, do what you can.
So you said you have belief. So Omar, do you believe that the Leafs can get it done this year?
I mean, I tweeted at the beginning of I think it was like a month or so into the season where I was like, I'm all in again, which is hilarious considering last year. Last year I was like, I don't care what they do in the regular season, I'm out. But yeah, man, like this again, there's something about this team that just feels different. It's like they know what the goal is. And I'm not sure last year they truly grasped that. Like as damaging as that Amazon documentary was, there are two moments that I can't get out of my head. First off was Travis Dermott deciding to do the spinorama after Sheldon Keefe had the most epic speech I've ever heard. A speech so epic that I forgot they lost. And then the second thing is that when Sheldon Keefe knew from the beginning of the season what the issues were. he would have conversations with Spezza. He would have conversations with Tavares and be like, hey, you know what? Like, yeah, we're winning games, but like, when can we get to a point where it's like, we're up 4-1, 5-1 in the game and the game is just over and we don't allow the opposition to score here or there? Like, when can we get to a point where it's just done? And anytime he would bring it up, it would always get brushed off. And I can never forget, I forgot what episode it was, but like Matthews and Marner and I think Riley and Joe Thornton were in the office with Keefe and Dubas, and Keefe brought it up again. And Thornton was like, we're first in the division. We're first in the division. I think that mindset is completely gone. I think now they've gone into this season, going into the playoffs, knowing that what they do in the regular season doesn't matter. Matthews brings it up all the time. We still have work to do. There's still a bigger goal here. Marner's brought it up. I'm pretty sure that's plays into I guess his okayness. I don't even know if that's a word. Okayness of him sitting out, and even though he was relatively close to 100 points, I think the team knows what the focus is and they know what they need to do and how they need to dial things up. So yeah, there's just something different about this team, and if they end up losing, well, at least fan motto, there's always next year. But I don't think it'll sting as much as last year, which is really odd to say. If they were to lose this time.
Like you said, it does feel like there's a sense of urgency, maybe more than there was last year, especially with this group. I feel like there is no promise that they'll stay together if the Leafs lose in the first round again. I feel like there is that sense of urgency, that core group. So I definitely agree. And, like you said, with Marner, being able to, or being okay with sitting out tonight when he had the ability to reach 100 points, I think that also speaks volumes. So yeah, I mean, in the end, it's been, a record-breaking season for the Leafs. They finished with 115 points and 54 wins, which are both franchise records. We see Matthews with 60 goals in a season, which hasn't been done since Ovechkin, and I believe 05, 06, if I'm not mistaken, which was just incredible to witness, even though he only played 73 games, which is unreal. Wild. Just unreal. We see Marner with 97 points, Nylander with 80 and 81. Up and down the lineup, there are Leafs with, incredible seasons. Ilya Mikheyev had an outstanding season this year.
Yeah, imagine if Kyle Dubas didn't hit Mikheyev with the Bugs Bunny meme, because he walks in like, hey, no. I want to trade, and he was just like, no. Imagine if Dubas listened and like traded him for like a pick, because that's what the trade would have been. It would have been like a pick and like Dennis Mulligan Part 2, and then we would have watched like Mikheyev like score 21 goals with like, I don't know, like Carolina or something. So yeah, man, he's gonna be. I think him and Engvall have been two players that have had like huge turnaround seasons, and a player like Mikheyev in particular, like that's the difference, man. Like Wayne Simmons this morning says something like, like when it comes down to like winning the playoffs, like you have to. You win or lose a series based off of how your depth players are playing, and I don't know what the playoff lineup is going to look like. I know Keefe did say that he's thinking of reuniting Tavares and Nylander together. Now, does that mean that we go back to the the OG of Kerfoot, Tavares, Nylander, or is it Mikheyev, Tavares, Nylander? And if it's back to that original line and you put Mikheyev on the third line, I think that's going to be huge. Like him and Engvall and Kampf, that was a line that was like relied on for like a lot of defensive starts, a lot of starts against the top players on the opposition. So like I think that can be the difference if you have Mikheyev like continuing what he's doing, and you see it all the time. Like Tampa, prime example. Like every time you think of those cup winning teams on Tampa, everyone talks about that third line with Yanni Gordon, Barclay Goodrow, and Blake Coleman. So can Mikheyev be that for this Leafs team? I think so, and I think that's why it was such an important decision to keep him.
Yeah, agreed. And you make a great point about depth in general, and the Tampa Bay's depth. I mean, their fourth line is incredible as well. So I think that's going to also be like a huge matchup for the Leafs. Like, who do they play on that fourth line, and will they be good enough? I mean, who do you ice? Like, if your game one is today, it's Monday. What is your starting lineup for the Leafs?
Is this under the assumption that my boy Michael
It's
Bunting is
under the
healthy.
assumption that your
Okay.
boy. Oh wait, before we even start that,
Yeah.
I want to give you your moment, please,
Yeah.
please talk about Michael Bunting and how you were his biggest fan from day one. Because
Day
Omar,
one.
like, pat on the back. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's you and then Kyle Dubas for like signing him, but you before Kyle Dubas.
I mean, like, so I guess pride myself in being someone who's like a huge fan of like the I don't know. I don't want to say like the unsung heroes because like Bunting is loved now, but like, okay, so like when it comes to like a team, they're the people that you like, right? So like on this Leafs team, like you'll like Matthews obviously and Marner obviously and Rahef, you're a huge Nylander fan. He scored 2 goals for you. That must have been awesome.
Was
Right, Riley and stuff. But for me, I've always been a fan of like the kind of like the middle tier players, but who also have like that like significant impact. So like growing up, I was a huge fan of like Battaglia, and Nicholas Hagman. I hated Phaneuf because Hagman had to go the other way in the trade. It's a fun fact. I don't know if anyone knows that story. I had a huge resentment for Phaneuf like his first 2 seasons. Even though he had that like huge hit in the first game, it was like, oh, Phaneuf, and I was like, no, because Hagman went the other way. Clark MacArthur, loved Clark MacArthur, dude. I loved Clark MacArthur so much. And then Connor Brown, like that stung so hard when he had to get traded. So after Connor Brown got traded, I like protected my heart because I was like, okay, I can't be tied to anyone because I don't know if you're going to stay long term. And then out comes Michael J. Bunting from Scarborough, Ontario. And
good old Scarborough boy.
I'm watching him and I'm like, you're the one. You're the one. And then like, training camp and preseason and all these videos came up and I was like, yep. Then you scored that hat trick in the preseason. And I was like, yes. And then I bought his jersey and it was sick. And then in the back of my head, I was like, did I make a mistake buying this jersey? But no, it was awesome. And yeah, I just love Michael Bunting's the kind of player I think you want in the playoffs. And honestly, like I think he's going to be another one as well. And that's why like when he got hurt, I was like, that's the worst time it could have happened. But I think he's going to be okay. And again, like that top line with Matthews and Marner and then Bunting on it, like, yeah, but yeah, you can argue that Bunting's kind of like I don't know, the freeloader if you want to guess, but like he has a role on that line as well, and I think he's going to be a force. So yeah, I love Michael J. Bunting, love him so much. Can't believe he's on another like Leagueman deal next year. Theft,
Absolutely theft.
Oh my god. So yeah,
Bunting for Calder.
Man, okay. So I was on that train for the longest time, and then I watched Cole Caulfield hit like 23 goals even though he had like 2 in February. Man, like like he's had an incredible run. But I don't know, I think for the longest time it's been Moritz Seider in Detroit. Just like the fact that again, like you're playing top pair minutes as a rookie defenseman, like yeah, sure, the team overall isn't good, but like that's incredible stuff. So I don't know. Maybe he might get like a third nomination here or there, or maybe he might not get nominated at all. Like that'll be completely fine. I think regardless, it's been a successful season for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He finishes the season with 63 points and 23 goals. Just an outstanding rookie season for Michael Bunting. So let's pretend that he's healthy and he's going to play in game 1. What is your starting lineup for the Leafs?
Yeah.
I think the first 2 lines, well, actually, not even the first 2 lines, pretty much just the first line, I think, for most people is set in stone, if that's the case. Then you have a lot of wiggle room, I think, playing around with it.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very good point that you're bringing up, that it is really right now only the first line that's set in Bunting, Matthews, Marner, because there's so much change that can be made as you go through lines 2 and 4. Like, do you keep Mikheyev playing with Tavares? So that's been something that Sheldon Keefe has been going with for the last like couple weeks or so. Or do you go back to Kerfoot, and if not, does that mean Kerfoot gets knocked down? Or do you bring back that Mikheyev Camp Engvall line that was so solid? And then I think the fourth line, I don't think we're gonna get like one fourth line. Like I can see it happening in like phases. Like, maybe like Sheldon Keefe just like, he puts like a bunch of magnets with like the possible names, he covers his eyes and just like throws it, and he's like, okay, so Spezza, Blackwell, and Clifford, okay, you're up. And then he sees how that goes. game one goes. If it's good, you stick with it. If not, you make that change. Or maybe or maybe the difference between playing at home or playing away. So I think we can actually see a lot of changes. I think to your point, Rahef, that only the first line is the only line that's in full lock, and then the rest are it can kind of be changed up and down. But as far as the defense pairings go, I think the defense pairings might be a little set. Riley Labushkin, Brody Muzzin, and then Giordano and one Timothy Liljegren, who I hope has finally paved the way to like get that playoff start, because like the whole time I was always thinking like, they're going to use the whole like he's inexperienced in the playoffs thing, or he's not strong enough in front of his own net thing, which, okay, I understand that. But like, I think this season he's really proven how that he can play, he can compete, he can take the hits when they come. And again, I don't think you want to, disrupt I guess the chemistry that he's like quickly generated with Mark Giordano. So hopefully that's the pairing that they decide to go for.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think for defense, Theo Liljegren is probably the one I have set in stone. I'm not 100% sold on Labushkin. Like
Mm,
to me, it alternates between whether I want him in the lineup or Hall. But the thing is like if you put in Hall, you put Hall with Muzzin. It's like we know that hasn't worked in the past, or at least
mhm.
this season. So it is tricky. If they go with what the defense pairs were today, then it looks like Hall's going to be um, sitting out game one. Um, I guess we'll have to
Yeah.
see. Do you have like any thoughts about the Labushkin Hall situation?
I mean, I think it is interesting, right? I mean, I think maybe that could be another area where Sheldon Keefe isn't really married to anything either. Like, I think, man, if I'm Sheldon Keefe, I walk into game one, just stone cold. Like, if you mess up, you're out. Like no second chances. Like we're not messing around here. Like the team has gotten better than what we thought it would be last year. Like, if you mess up, you're out. So like, if I'm looking at like Labushkin, for example, who, for all intents and purposes, is I guess the ideal defenseman you want in a playoff series, one that isn't afraid to like to throw hits in front of the net, around the net, in the neutral zone, not afraid to jump up in the rush. But at the same time, there are some moments where he feels like where he kind of does struggle defending the rush against, especially in those one-on-one situations. But I do think that Riley and Labushkin have kind of, I guess, developed an understanding to with each other, as far as giving Riley the means to jump up in ice and Babushkin staying back so Riley can do that. And I guess on the flip side for Hall, we've seen a lot of instances where Hall will like make a pass and then just like go, I'm a forward now, and just like go down to the offensive zone with like not realizing if anyone's covering, and then there's an offensive rush, and then the team scores. And you can't allow that against a team like Tampa. And I think that's what you have to really keep in mind is who on the team are going to make the best decisions at the right moments. And I think from there, that's where you have to make your line of decisions from. So initially, if I'm Sheldon Keefe and I'm looking at Labushkin and Hall, I give the initial look to Labushkin, I give the initial look to Liljegren, and then I just watch and see. And if there are multiple issues or multiple mistakes or multiple issues, or sorry, multiple like goofs, if you want to call it, that wind up in the back of the net,
Dang it.
especially dang it, if you want to call it that. Yeah, if you have those that are happening that end up in the back of your net and then cost you a game. Like, it's one thing for just a goal to be scored, but if it's a goal that costs you the game, Dermot, right? Then I think those are the decisions that you have to make. I'm sorry, Dermot. Like, I love you, Dermot, as a person. I love Dermot as a player, but like that spinorama, like Dermot and Galchenyuk, like those names will forever be burned in my
Traumatized. Don't worry, I get
uh,
it.
so yeah, I think those are the things that Keefe is gonna do. Just like watch, see who makes the right decisions at the right time, and then they're gonna get the ones who are gonna get the ice time.
Yeah. And do you think, like looking back at the Montreal series, I think a really important factor in that series was the Leafs power play, and that it
Mm,
just completely dried up. Um, and that was obviously a storyline throughout the season. If you had to pick I don't want to just say one thing, but let's say two or three things that you think are going to be key for the Leafs against Tampa Bay. What do you think those would be?
I think the penalty kill has to stay as good as it's been, because I think that will be a damaging factor. Because when it comes to killing penalties, like usually teams just defend, but what the Leafs have been doing this season is attacking on the penalty kill, and it's really been Mitch Marner and Alex Kerfoot who have really been, I guess, driving that. Even Camp has actually made some pretty solid plays, and Engvall and Mikheyev finally
The
scoring on
power
a short.
kill.
The power kill, man. Like, I think, or like Keith called it the pressure kill, like whatever. Like I think that's going to be huge because hey, you know what? Like refereeing in the playoffs is stupid. So you know what? So you never know like when something's going to be called, when something isn't going to be called. And in the moment, if you do end up taking a penalty, it'd be pretty sick if you end up scoring on that short-handed rush, because not only one would that, I don't know, either put you in the lead, tie the game or whatever, or even just get you on the board, but it also just take the wind out of Tampa's sails at the time, because again, Tampa's a team that's also known for its offensive weapons as well. So I think the penalty kill, power play, absolutely. Again, back to the idea that in the playoffs, you don't get many opportunities, so you have to score on those opportunities. And to your point, Rahef, what we saw last year was just like it got to a point where the Leafs would get a power play and was just like, can we just like pass? Like, can we just like not take it? Can we just like do some type of conversion or
We don't
something?
need it.
It's
It's
like
not going to do us any good.
like a 5-on-3. Do we really need that? Can we just like transfer to something else? So I think that's those. So I think special teams overall, absolutely, you have to score on those opportunities, especially because Tampa knows how to defend, man. Like they've done it. We've seen them do it multiple times. You see them do it all the way to the Stanley Cup, in back-to-back years. So
Yeah.
you have to score on those opportunities. You have to. And so I think so definitely. So both special teams and goaltending. It's
Oof. I
and this
mean, that's
isn't
a tough ask. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, and that's not to say that Jack Campbell wasn't good last year or that Jack Campbell wasn't good this year. I mean, there was that stretch where like, Jack Campbell like definitely like dipped, but if you're Jack Campbell and you're looking across the ice and you're seeing Andrei Vasilevsky, like it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to not be the second, come in second place when it comes to goaltending, but you have to try. You have to do your best. If Andrei Vasilevsky is making save after save, doing the splits like he does all the time, like all these crazy stops, you have to match that. You have to. And the worst possible thing that Jack Campbell can do, and it's completely unfair, but it has to be said, the worst thing that he could do is if the Leafs are buzzing, some turnover happens, there's an odd man rush, and they score. That's like that's going to be tough, especially if it's like a 0-0 game and like we're in the third period or something.
yeah.
So so special teams and goaltending, I think, are going to be the key thing. And then the stars have to show up, right?
Yeah.
The third line was great, but it's also last year, Braden Point was sick for Tampa, Kucherov was sick for Tampa, Stamkos was good, right? Victor Hedman was good. So that's what it come down to. So we talk about the the depth and the core and stuff, or the depth and like the defense and goaltending, but the stars just have to remember that they're stars.
100%. And I think that's definitely been an issue for the Leafs in the past. Obviously last series against Montreal, Suarez gets injured. But the issue that the Leafs have had is, they have these top two lines where theoretically you have Matthews, Marner, and you have Nylander Tavares. I mean, obviously it depends on what the combination Sheldon Keefe goes with. But regardless, you have four incredible players. And I think the issue in the past has been that all four have not been clicking in the playoffs at the same time. It's always been one or two, and the others have kind of just been silent for the most part. And I think that's what we saw last season against Montreal. And I think that's something, as you said, that is going to be key for them this season. I mean, this postseason. Matthews and Marner, we've seen them tear it up all year long. Hopefully that does not dry up in the playoffs. That would be awful for the Leafs.
Insanely frustrating too. It's just like we watched you do this. Like we watched it was so easy. Like you're doing in between the legs, all this stuff. Where's that? Where's that? That'd be insanely frustrating if the offense dries up. And again, it might if the Leafs lose in the first round, but Matthews and Marner are silent again, then I think that's where you might entertain some of those serious conversations. I think if everyone is clicking and everyone's doing their best and everyone's doing their job, but it's just like, hey, you face Tampa, then I think it would be the easier pill to swallow, and maybe you kind of tweak around the edges a little bit, but maybe the core remains intact. But if it's another year where you're relying on you're watching your stars not doing anything, and then result in a loss, then maybe that's where you start to have those kind of bigger conversations.
Yeah. Hopefully that is not the case. Hopefully we see a patented Austin Matthews wrister game 1 of the playoffs, assisted by Mitch Marner. It's going to be on home ice. Hopefully the atmosphere at the SVA is going to be incredible. I'm really, really excited. Either way. I guess before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask you, Omar, what if you could look back on the season? What was your personally what was a moment that really stood out to you? What was your favorite or one of your favorite moments of the year?
Matthews, that goal. Okay, so you remember when Matthews raised a whole bunch of money for Movember, and he shaved his mustache?
I will never forget that.
Then he comes back and literally obliterates the Colorado Avalanche. That goal where he was just in front of the goaltender and just made 100 moves, and then that was, man, that goal, I flipped over my chair. That goal was so sick. I think when it comes down to looking at the season overall, I mean, it starts and it ends with Matthews and what he was able to do. We started the show with this 60 goals in 73 games, man. If you and if you think, if he starts the season, plays a full 82 or at least 81 or 80, depending on how the playoff situation is going, it's just, this is literally what we were promised, which is wild. Again, that lottery win when Brandon Shanahan was on the network. He's with the other team officials. Trevor Linden, Vancouver dropped down. He looked sad. And then who else was there? Brian Burke was there. Calgary dropped. He was upset. The Winnipeg Jets won. It was awesome for them. And it was between the Jets and the Leafs. We could have either got Laine or Matthews, flipped the card over, gave it to, man, that we did not comprehend how huge that would end up being. Where were you when that happened?
Where was I? I was at home watching the draft lottery with my brother, who was also a crazy Leaf fan. We were watching it together. And yeah, I don't think anybody truly knew how incredible Austin Matthews was going to be. I don't think anybody thought he would be this good. I remember people were comparing him to Kopitar at the time.
Right. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, I think even he compared himself to Kopitar, actually. Or I don't know. Yeah, I remember that was the big narrative. I think the Kopitar thing was going on. But then from the draft, and we watched him at the World Cup. He's playing with McDavid and
Team North America.
Man, they need to bring that team back, but as obvious over 23-year-olds. Just one game. That'd be so
one
funny.
game, just one game.
Just imagine right now, Matthews, McDavid, Johnny Gaudreau, McKinnon,
Marner would be on that team. That would be
Riley,
disgusting.
Phil. Oh man, they need to do a best on best tournament soon. So then going from the World Cup and then going from that first game of 4 goals, and then from that moment we were like, wow, this kid can legitimately be a difference maker. If the Leafs end up doing something, of substance in the season, it'll be from him. And there have definitely been a lot of frustrations, as a team, but individually, Matthews has gotten better and better every single year. And the fact that, again, he has found a way to look better. Mitch Marner has found a way to look better. Mitch Marner can score goals.
I mean, who saw that coming? Remember a couple of seasons ago when everybody was criticizing him for his floaty wrist shot? Wow, dude, have things changed? One of them, man. So was I.
When he signed that deal, now he was making 10.8, whatever it was. I was like, man, like you can't make double digits if you're not scoring at least 30. And then Mitch Marner looked me dead in the face and said, okay, fine, screw you. And then finish the season with like through what 34, 35 goals. So there's that. But again, there's the caveat of
35. Yeah.
can you do it in the playoffs? So I think just the growth of those two in particular, because they were already so good, just to see them get even better, I think has been like just unreal. And honestly, like I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play in the playoffs this year.
Oh my. One last question, Omar.
Yep.
Matthews for Hart?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. 1,000%. Like, and that's not to take away from like all the other stories. McDavid, you're McDavid.
Yeah, very true. There's not much else to say.
Yeah, McDavid, you're McDavid. Jonathan Huberdeau, great season. Johnny Gaudreau, incredible season. But like, just let us listen, okay? Leafs fans, we have suffered for so long through so many things. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe us, just type the Leafs are awesome, and then to see how quick everyone says win a series. It was 3-1, it was 4-1. Zamboni driver, like like all of these things.
The fact that we can list more than like 10 things. Honestly, we could list more than 10 things. That tells you enough.
Honestly, it's like like Matthews winning the Hart on top of another Rocket, back-to-back Rockets, I think would be sick. And like honestly, man, like the main reason I want the Leafs to win a series is just so we can just eliminate the win around chirp. Like,
that's
people
literally
need to understand the minute it happens, that chirp is gone. You cannot use it anymore.
No,
Sure, Zamboni
you
driver,
have to
whatever.
use something more original after that.
Yep. Yeah,
put a little effort into it.
Exactly. You can. There's so many other things. Right? So just give us that. I think that's Leafs fan message to the Leafs themselves. Win the series so we can stop being chirped about it, pretty much.
Agreed. Okay, and I guess with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Hopefully Austin Matthews wins the Hart. We are his number one campaigners, and hopefully the Leafs can get it done this year in the playoffs. We're all looking forward to Game 1 against Tampa Bay. Fingers crossed, everyone. Thank you all for joining again.